Good evening, good evening, good evening. I know it has been a while, but I am still here. Over the last few months, I've been working on a few things, personal things, scholastic things. And while I was doing that, I realized that this platform kind of pivoted from the natural vision that I had for this platform. And so the topics start flowing in, and I said, okay, I'm gonna have to reintroduce the platform. So the, there is no bells and whistles. I'm playing around with a few other things to make the platform more livelier. I'm gonna say that for sure. But I did want to drop this video because it keeps it. I'm not gonna hold you. It's been in my head for a month now, and it's like, nope, you got to say this topic. And not only is this topic important and imperative, it's really imperative for the times that we are seeing right now, honestly. And so today, I am going to talk about Black Boy Joy. So if you've been with me for a while, you understand that this platform is talking about the inner works. This channel is healing in the vein, meaning there is some inner work, some inner healing that has to take place. That is the purpose of this platform. And so today's topic is not a religious topic, but it is a health topic. It is one to help us deep dive, right? And so whenever I was inspired to talk about this topic, it was divinely inspired. I'm going to say that I didn't know how to quite take it, honestly, right? It took a deep dive of self for one, and I'm one that always want to heal from the inside, get to the root of it, right? And one of the things I had to do was to go back to some spaces that I've healed from and look at where were the wrong turns, right? What were the things that had me in a bad space as a black man? And so I'm going to talk on a few of those things, not all of them, right? But as they pertain to the conversation. And tonight's conversation is about Black Boy Joy. But it's not about the joy side, it's about the side that took away the joy. It's about the things that would have you cringe, right? Or to go silent. And so when we talk about Black Boy Joy, it became a movement. And just moments ago, I wanted to see where the beginning was because I didn't know. I just knew it was a term that started being used to celebrate black men and their joy, however black men find joy. And it was from a group of young men from high school who just wanted to try new things without judgment. And so they tried new things, they experienced new things with each other, and they took it from high school to college. And they're still doing it. You see a lot of platforms that use Black Boy Joy. You've seen the hashtag on social media saying hashtag Black Boy Joy. And there was even a group of writers that wrote a book on it, right? And it's that finding that joy. And when I begin to think about adult men, I've worked with so many people. I've seen it in my own family. And one of the things I often see is that men are so bottled up. Men are not as expressive as they can be. You see black men in their arts and in their when they're doing something, I'll say in their gift space. Let me put it that way. That's when you begin to see the joy, because they're like, oh, I got this, I know how to do this. But when you take them out and put them in something, in another space, black men become fish out of the water. They can't breathe. They don't know how to think. It's like the world is crowding them. They're anxious. Some men are, and in their anxiousness, they become quiet. Some other men are reactive. They complain about everything. They're snappy. And a lot of women say, well, what's up with such and such? Why is he like this? Like, and then if it's the person that's with them, they're like, oh, that's just such and such. It's more than that. It's not. It's more than just that's him. That's the way he act. With Black Boy Joy, you have to understand that some men, most most black men, were told to bottle up inside. And I know some people would say, oh, we've heard this before, but let me give you another angle out of this. It's not only that that they were told to bottle up their feelings and to not express it, but now how can you express something that you were always told to hold it in, and you never even defined what that was for yourself? If something hurt you, you already didn't have the vocabulary as a young boy, as a young child, as to what you were experiencing, but you were told to hold it in, to bottle it in, to shut up and don't make all that noise. Stop crying, right? And so now you're expected as an adult to define what hurt you, and you can't. And the thing about it is that once you're an adult, you still hold that thing, and you haven't quite defined what it is. So when something triggers that point of view again, you react. I call it the crash out, because we see a lot of young men present day crashing out. And when they get to this space of crashing out and just lashing out, there is no explanation. And when you ask them, why did you do this? I don't know. They truly don't know. They've never defined it, so they can't give you an actual word to describe that emotion, to describe that feeling, to describe the situation, because they were made to shut up. That is one thing why I like the arts so much, because in the arts you get a chance to express yourself in ways that you may not have. That's why I love the theater. With the theater, you're taught to study the character, study the time, study the scene, study the era, to understand what was taking place and why a line would have been uh, said by your character. But then it's not only why the line was said, but how would the person have said it. And I remember one of the first plays that I did in undergrad was I played a black man named Herman. And a very good friend of mine, Mandy, was my wife. And Mandy's white. And so I was a black man in Texas in the 1950s, married to a white woman. That was our scene. And having to play that, there was a time, and there was one of the scenes where Herman shuts up. And so at the time I was just like, I don't know why he was quiet. And the director at the time said, think about why Herman would not make a fuss. And it was with, I want to say it was with the police was there, the police or the ambulance or something like that. Anyway, he shuts up. But at work, he's like, he goes to work, he doesn't say anything. And at his house, he's the head of the household. He goes out in public, he shuts up. This situation happens, he shuts up. And there's this scene where he and his wife has this discussion, and he gets heated at her, and she doesn't quite understand. And she's like, you're the head of the household, what's going on? And he reveals to her, I can't in public be the lead. They've diminished myself. They diminished who I am as a man. And that's what happens when young men, young boys are made to shut up. You diminish their essence, their true essence. And because of this diminishment, now it's older men, they have this hardness. And some people call it this layers and layers and layers of things to unpack, but it's more than just layers to unpack. They haven't healed that boy, that little boy inside. That little boy is still screaming that I want attention, that I want to know what this thing is, that I want to figure it out. And even when the men figure out what it is, they don't know how to deal with it because they're like, okay, well, I figured out what's wrong with me, but now I still shouldn't say anything because people are gonna look at me weird. I still shouldn't say anything because why would they listen now? Who's gonna listen to me? And that's the sign of weakness. I don't want to. No, it is strength in revealing oneself, one's I want to say true nature, but that's not even where it's not even the true nature, but the true feelings, the true essence of that heart space, right? And so when you're talking about matters of the heart, and I know I have spoke on it before this platform, but it was more so from the spiritual side. So now I'm going to dive into the physical side. When you're holding on to something that is causing your body stress, when you're talking about matters of the heart and it's from a physical place, and instead of addressing the physicality of it all, instead of addressing the situation, it's like I just gotta keep moving. It's the same as when somebody jumps from one relationship to another without having to process what they just went through, right? And in psychology, they tell you that you shouldn't, because what you do is you carry everything from that previous relationship and you bring it to the new. It's on autopilot with men when they're not able to express themselves, but really more so with black men. Anytime a young black man has gone through something, it's okay, well, we're gonna handle it, and the situation gets handled however it gets situated, but emotionally it's never taken care of. I remember a time when I was playing football. We had an indoor gym when I was in elementary school, and I told a friend of mine, I said, "Catch this baby." And the teacher pulled me to the side and sent me to the office with a write-up slip for cursing. And I was like, cursing? Like, sir, first of all, I didn't curse. Second of all, if I was to curse, I wouldn't be dumb enough to curse in front of you. You're a teacher. But it impacted me because it showed me then that teachers, or I'm not even going to say teachers, that people will shut you up based off of a lie. And so from then on, I always felt like I had to explain myself. I always felt like when there was some sort of untruth, I had to get it all out. Like, no, if you're gonna ding me for the right thing, right? Let me get this story out. And people will call that they would say, "Oh, you're just trying to." It was an excuse. It's not an excuse, but if you're seeing the picture the incorrect way, baby, am I to now say that your vision is blurred because that's not what I did, right? So before you tell people this is an excuse, listen. Before you sin and punish your son, listen first. Listen to what they have to say. Listen for the words that they're not saying, right? I remember a time I had a foster brother growing up, and he was so angry. We got along. We had a love hate relationship. I'm not gonna lie, but I could see the anger in him. He expressed himself silently. He never thought that nobody loved him. He was actually one of my really good friends growing up. He didn't stay with us long, but I always considered him like a really close friend. Like no matter where I went, if I was to see him, I'm like, "Yo, what's going on? How you doing?" Like people be like, "Who that?" I'm like, "That's my little brother." Like, what's up? Um, and it was because I knew how much he was holding in. On the flip side, when I was his age, I was so I couldn't tell you why I was angry. I could not. I didn't know what it was. But what helped me through it was I started writing. I caught myself trying to write in a journal, and I got tired of writing the norm. So it started turning into poetry. And then that poetry started turning into music, like songs that you can sing. And so that was my outlet. And so I would begin to listen to music as well. If I didn't have anything to say, I would just turn on the radio and sit in my room for hours in the dark, just listening to music. And it would help me. It would somehow relieve what I was going through. And some people will say, don't listen to depressive music because it's gonna keep you in that space. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. So for me, what it would do is it showed it took me, I was in that space, but whenever I got it all out, when I cut that music off, those feelings went with it. So music is just as well as a healing um, antidote, as well it is something that could cause somebody to do things, and people don't really talk about that. That's why in the music is a part of the expressive arts. That's why when you look at the artists even of today of in the past, and people say, oh, that they were wow, they did some crazy stuff in those videos and they had some crazy lyrics. Look at where they were coming from. Sometimes you have to study the lyric to see what the person was going through. Sometimes you have to really look at the video not for what you're seeing, but seeing the artistry of what it is saying, because everything is saying a message. And if you have never been in that space, you're going to miss the message, and you're going to cut something off that is detrimental for somebody else. And that's the thing. And so one of the other things, and I'm going to talk as how it's coming to me, that so if you feel like this is all over the place, please forgive me. But this, I'm talking as it's coming to me. So right now, you take that music space, right? And now we go into the mode of the barbershop. The barbershop is the safe haven, is the speakeasy for black men. And I say it's the speakeasy because you don't have any distractions. It's just you and other men. And sometimes as a young man, I would hear the conversations from the older men and what they were going through. And it was like, it, you know how some women go to the spa and say, oh, I was able to relieve. That's that place for the men. That is that same space for the men, because that is where they can talk to their brothers, and that is where they commune, and this is where they can share, this is what I'm going through at my home, who else has been through this, help me out, what am I doing wrong, right? And that's not at all spaces, but it is for a lot of spaces, especially when the guys know each other and they hang out with each other outside of the barber shop, right? That they just like, my bro, like, we had a wild night last night, didn't we? You know, it is because they had that experience together. And a lot of times when men are not able to find those spaces, they hold it up so much that the littlest thing ticks them off. I began to, earlier this year, we saw a lot of women being murdered by their sons, by their husbands, their boyfriends, and it's nothing new. But it definitely highlighted that these men were missing something. These men didn't get something at an early age that they should have. And I'm not blaming the parents, right, all the way, right? But I'm blaming society. because society would tell you that men don't need anything. Men's to take care of the home. Men has to be the lead of the home. Men always have to be at the top, the forefront, the forefront. But the man doesn't have anything to fall on, right? Because if the man shows signs of weakness, that means he has to get off his post. That means he has to step down from being the leader. And if he's supposed to be the person to take care of the home and he can't take care of the home, now what? That's a place for erasure, potential erasure. The place where a man has to cease and desist, right? That's at least that's how it feels, right? Because society places you on this pedestal where you have to be at the forefront. And I know some people say, well, that's why you give it to God, and that's, God will help you out. And yes, that's true, right? That's on the spiritual side. But let's face it, that's why you don't see a lot of men in the church. Because if you are carrying this burden and you don't know who to give it to without giving up your post, you're not going to try to heal. And there's resources. There's brotherhood talks that should be implemented. And it doesn't always have to be spiritual. It doesn't always have to be churchy. It just has to be real and authentic. I've been in spaces and people will talk and then they're cursing in front of me and they say, oh man, I'm sorry, sorry, sorry. And I'm like, you're fine, right? Because I'm creating this space for you to be real. I'm not creating a space for you to put on this facade to make sure to let me know that everything's all right when I know your life is falling to pieces. Be real, right? That is the space. Now I'm going to take it little spiritual. That is the space that Jesus was in when he helped deliver folks. Jesus wanted you, when he said, come as you are, he meant that thing. Come with every crazy idea and thought in your head so that you can get it out. That is the importance of talking, being able to verbalize what is going on with you. And if you can't verbalize it, when you're in a space where you can describe the thing and somebody else has the word for it, oh, what you're talking about is this. Oh, that's what it's called. Now I can have a definition. But it first starts with conversations to let things out, right? And if you want me to paint the picture, I'm gonna give you the easiest description there is. In Genesis, it says that God said, let us create, right? And while he was speaking, things came to be, right? The focus that I want to say is, I don't know why, it's just maybe it's because I'm talking about men, but he said, let us create man in our image. And he created Adam out of the dust of the earth, right? But what he said was he spoke it for it to happen. In order to have deliverance, you got to know what you're being delivered from. If you're not able to speak it, how can you be delivered from it? Right? You get to the prayer line, what I need to pray for you for? I don't know what it is. I just need to be delivered. Delivered from what? I don't know. I don't know what. That is how the men are coming and showcasing in the world right now. God said, let there be light, and there was. Let there be water, and there was. Let there be trees, and there was. Let there be creepy crawly things, and there was, right? In order to let there be peace, you got to understand what peace is replacing. Because when you put peace on top of hell, guess what? Hell breaks through and that peace is shattered because you haven't fully been delivered or lifted out of whatever that thing is. And so when you're talking about Black Boy Joy, understand that underneath that joy sometimes or not underneath, but in order to get to that joy, there's a lot of digging to find out what caused the joy to stop in the first place. There's the I'm gonna give it to you like it's coming to me right now. There's the answer and then there's the problem. Right? You can have the problem, but if you can't define the problem, you won't get to the answer. And on the other side, there's a lot of answers, but if they're not the key to the problem, you're going to always have the problem and you're going to always try different methods to get to the joy. But when you can't get to the joy because, and I'm seeing the little, the games where it says follow this line and figure out where it goes. Well, you have all them answers. You going through all the lines, and it's not getting to your problem. It's going to the brick wall. It's going out into the field. It's going wherever it needs to, except for where the problem is, and that is the problem within itself. Because guess what happens? Man, I tried this already, and I tried this, and ain't nothing working. I'm tired of trying. And when somebody gets tired of trying, that's that I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired. So guess what? I'm a self-medicate, whatever self-medication looks like. I'm a smoke, I'm a drink, I'm gonna do those drugs, I'm a party, I'm gonna have sex, I'm gonna shut out the world, I'm gonna stay in those video games, right? And nothing is being said, it's just festering, right? It's just building up. And then it also takes a self-reflection. And if men don't know how to self-reflect, I've always been a self-reflector. It's just something I've always done, even when I was a baby. Even when I was holding me, I have memories from being held as a baby, self-reflecting. I can't explain it. But when you can't self-reflect because you're afraid of what you're going to see, you're afraid that you're going to get to a place in your heart space that you haven't verbalized yet, or something that you don't want to acknowledge that happened to you, that shuts up the Black boy joy. And nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about the work that you have to do to get to heal that little Black boy, to get that Black boy joy, to change the outcome of your life. Nobody talks about how when it's an ugly process to be healed, but at the end you feel lighter. Nobody talks about how sometimes the Black boy joy cannot come out because of it's something that somebody within the family has done to the boy, and now the boy is on a warpath for everybody in the family. And so the little boy on the inside, who's now a man on the outside, stays away from the family, and everybody's trying to figure out why he never comes around. Well, let's see. Have y'all created the space for that little boy on the inside to heal or to find healing? It's not all the time that somebody has been spoiled, right? Because we're quick to say, oh, that person was spoiled when they're growing up. Their parents gave them everything and they don't have any boundaries. No, no, no. I promise you, sometimes It is something that that young man went through that has not been dealt with. And we have to talk about it. We have to talk about when the power of no. When was that young person told no and it was something so detrimental that it took a even powerful impact? Was this person told no that they couldn't go see their auntie or their grandmother, and then that person got killed in an accident that night or the next day, and that child never saw that person again? So now every time somebody says no, that person goes into freak out mode. I would never be able to have this type of experience again, because the one time that it mattered and I wanted this experience, it was taken from me forever. Do we talk about these things? Do we talk about the need or the wantingness of young black men and never being able to get it? Because let's face it, society hasn't been that good to a lot of black families. And so when the black kid grows up, social media, especially with social media is a lot heavy for these younger people than it was from when I was growing up. But seeing everything in the world, oh, this person got this person got that, and that person can never get it because their household only brings but a handful of money, and that goes to the bills. I know people who haven't left the city that they grew up in because their family could never have had enough money. Not only does that impact your mental health, it impacts how you see the world. Because some people will literally grow up and say, oh, well, I'm not even going to try to aim for that because what's the point of trying to aim for it? I'm reduced to the space of my four walls or the four streets in my community. Like I may can go, to the next city over, but traveling out of the state, traveling out of the country, that's not for me. And for some people I've met, it's an actual fear, right? So we have to think about how society is shaping the mind of the black men. There are a lot, and I do mean a lot of spaces for the women. There's women empowerments. I see the women empowerment services. It's women sisterhood brunches and things for the women. And that's nice cultivation, right? But that's when you get a chance to cultivate minds, introduce new experiences, right? And I've seen it of all ages. But that same thing is not really created for the men. And if you're talking about men, men who haven't unpacked coming together as a brotherhood, baby, it's fussing and fighting. You breeding that same culture, and we call it toxic masculinity. Well, if there wasn't any space to create anything other than the toxic behaviors and the toxic reminders of those men, of course you're going to get toxic masculinity because there hasn't been a space for the man to relieve himself of the toxicity within. When can we have men empowerment? And I'm not talking about no, oh man, I love you, we're gonna have a cookout and we're gonna talk about men's issues. And when we talk about the men's issues, we talk about the man who's been married, or the man who has the alcohol problem or drug problem, but we don't get to the root of that problem. We got to understand the why. We got to understand the problem, right? We got all the answers. Well, brother, I'm gonna help you. We're gonna make sure that you stop this addiction that you have. We're gonna get you out of this addiction. Okay, that's one thing to get the person out of the addiction, right? But if we don't solve the root problem, that person's gonna fall back into that addiction. If you don't understand why this man is so abusive to the people, to the women in his life, then you're never going to you're going to give him, you're going to send him to anger management to manage the anger that he has inside, but it doesn't resolve the main issue as to why this person is beating on the women in his life from the beginning or in the first place. No, when we get into these spaces, we have to do a men's healing journey. We have to understand, like, whether you may have gone through some things that you may not want to talk about, but we need to talk about it so you can get it out, so we can find you the proper help. This is why we have and I was so glad that in a few years ago that they were talking about the need for more black men therapists. And I've seen some. I even have a cousin that's a black male therapist, so shout out to him in Charlotte, North Carolina, right? So I, you know, incorporate therapy in these men sessions. Incorporate a healing space for the men in these sessions. Don't let it all the time be about football and sports and marriage talk. No, we're more than that. And especially when you want to talk about it in from a spiritual space, you have to incorporate, you have to understand that in the spiritual realm, okay, I'm getting back into the spirituality. In the spiritual realm, there's freedom. In the spiritual realm, there is a lightness, right? There is this transparency, quite literally, when you're talking about the spiritual world. So why can we not see that that's what needs to happen in the physical realm? That we have to be free, we have to be transparent, because with transparency comes the truth. When the truth comes healing, with the healing comes a better life and better society. There's nothing to unpack when you've already unpacked. That's like you going on a trip and you keep your dirty clothes in the bag. And somebody says, "Oh, well, we're going on a trip. You want to come?" No. Why? Because I haven't washed my clothes yet. But you got more clothes, yeah. But that's the only bag that I have. So, uh, I can't put my clean clothes on top of my dirty clothes. All right, man. Well, we'll see you when we come back. And you leave that bag of dirty clothes just sitting there. You never do nothing. You don't unpack it. And then somebody else say, "Oh, well, we're going on another trip, and you missed the last trip. All right, man, I'm coming this time. I don't care. I don't care. I'm coming this time." So you put some clean clothes on top of them dirty clothes because you don't want to miss out this time, because you realize that the last time they had a good time. And so you take those clothes with you and you wear those clothes and you somehow get them mixed up with the dirty clothes. So now you got a mixture of clean clothes on top of dirty clothes. And then after that trip, after people are looking at you kind of weird, like, what's going on? It's like, okay, that's him though. He comes back, you don't wash those clothes. And then the next trip is ready. And then you're like, no, I really got to do this laundry. And they're looking at you like, well, when are you going to do it? When are you going to unpack those clothes and wash those clothes? When are you going to do that dirty laundry? Right? And you don't. So what you do is you go get another bag, you buy another bag, and you go on this trip, but you get your fresh clothes, and then you run out of clothes, and so you're like, oh shoot, now I got to go spend all this extra money that I really don't have to spend, but I need some fresh clothes because I never bothered to unpack the bag with two sets of vacation dirty clothes now. And so you get this, you go out, you buy new clothes, you put that in the bag, and then you go out and you go have fun, and you come back and you decide that you're not going to unpack that, right? You decide you're going to let that sit. And the same thing, you spend all the money you don't have to, and you go buy another bag, and you put clothes in, and you go on a trip, and you come back. And so eventually now you have 6 bags of dirty clothes. Mm-hmm. For the intents of purposes, for people who are not understand what I'm saying, that is the same thing that men do when they do not unpack what is bothering them. The going out with the friends, Sometimes that look like, oh, I'm not going to go on that trip. That looks like seclusion and being secluded in the house and being in a dark space. And then when they finally do come out, it's just like, oh, you like, man, you got really drunk or you got really wasted. You really partying. Like, bro, you okay? Yeah, man, I'm okay. I'm okay. Pour it up, pour it up. I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm good, man. I'm just saying I'm good. And everybody looking at you like, no, you really spinning. Um, One of my frat brothers had this song that I had the pleasure of speaking on or adding a piece to his music, and it's called Spinning. And I really loved it because that's what we do. Like that's what men tend to do. And there's the line that goes spinning, spinning out of control, spinning, spinning out of control. And that's what happens. The man is really spinning out of control, and then when he gets home, he's back and he's like, okay, I'm back in my environment. I can sit, and he sit there with the felt because he hasn't unpacked yet. And those 6 bags eventually become 6 months, 6 years, right? 6 decades for some men. Let's be serious. Let's be real here. Holding on and not letting go of something. And then it gets to the point where it's like, dang, I spent all this extra money. Yeah, you spent all this extra money self-medicating when you didn't heal what was the problem. The self-medication looks like buying beer every day, 6 packs of beer, because you're trying to drink your problems away and you didn't have to spend that much money. And when you come out on the other side and you heal yourself, you're like, man, I wasted so much money buying beer when I didn't have to. All I had to do was go to this therapist and unpack. What's that bad habit that you constantly put money into because you decide that you don't want to unpack what you holding on to? What's that dirty laundry that is there, but you don't want to address it? You don't want to clean it up. That's the space that we have to be in order to clean up and find that black boy joy that turns into uh black men joy, the happiness from within, the happiness that cannot come from any other space but from a healed space in your mind, your heart, and your soul. That's the space we have to be in. And then when it comes to society again, and we're starting to see the erasure of black men through guns, through prison, it's the same. That experience of loss and not being able to again and not being able to talk about it without being judged, going to the prison space not understanding why the person even got caught up in such a way that they need to be in prison. Like I just a few days ago, I saw something back home. I'm in another state, so back home, like where I'm from, and it was what 3, 4 young black men, and it was like a gang related, or at least that's what the headlines alluded to, that it was gang related. And I was like, but how did these young men get here? What are they so angry about? What are they trying to protect? Right? Why are they trauma bonding? Because let's face it, that's all a gang is trauma bonds. We don't talk about that enough, right? What traumatic experience are these young men having that they realize that they have to wear a certain color and have to get, do certain things to feel seen, to feel like a familial bond when you was birthed out of families, right? It is something more. It's a trauma bond. I see you because I've been in that same space, and we till we die. And we keep losing black men, right? And we got to stop this pattern. So if you got to take one man at a time in your neighborhood to get them straight, when that person texts you, hey, I'm out of money, can you send me? Nope. Because all you're going to do is buy a beer with it. All you're going to do is buy drugs with the money. And then you're going to come right back. Stop feeding into this system, this program that they have in their mind. They know what they're doing, that they got it all together, because they don't. If you want me to send you this money, how about collectively you go every day, 5 times a week? You know that equates to a therapy session. How about I buy you a therapy session instead? Because let's talk about it. Let's unpack. Why are you drinking? Why are you smoking so much? And then I'm not even gonna lie to you. It's gonna be a fight, and it's gonna be, oh, I got this, I know this. No, you don't. And sometimes you have to show people their patterns. Sometimes you have to be the mirror image, so that they can see what's going on. Sometimes you do have to cut the person off to see what they're doing wrong so that they can wake up, right? That's what we call that tough love, right? But don't just cut them off without giving them a resource, right? Because that's the thing. Men have been cut off and pushed to the side and without the resource. But if you can say, I'm about to cut you off, but when you're ready to come back, here's a resource for you, then we can talk. Because you may not see it. And of course, they don't see it. So I'm going to stop saying they may not. Of course, they don't see it. Because when you are somebody that's dealing with something from the heart space and all you see is darkness, that's all you know. When you can't find your way out, I told you earlier, they don't even have the definition. Some of these guys don't have the definition as to what is going on. So, of course, they don't see it. Of course, they don't know the traumatic effect that the loss of something or someone has on them. And as a result, they just lash out. Because again, it's like, I got one better for you. It's like this. It's a dark room and something coming from the left, something coming from the right, and all they're going is because they don't know what's going on. So they swinging and swiping at everything. And then when you add drugs and alcohol to it, when you add extreme amounts of anxiety, of course, it's not going. You're not seeing clearly. It's like their vision is like this. If you turn your head like this and move from side to side really fast, you can't really see anything clearly. It's all a blur. So again, it's swiping out. So that's why when some of these guys are going through and when you're trying to help them and you're like, I'm trying to help you, they really don't see it. They're in a blurred spot. Their vision is blurred. So, as we talk about Black boy joy, understand that it's a process to get the Black men back to that young Black boy joy so that they can heal the right way. But it is necessary. It is necessary for their healing before society so we can stop losing Black men in ways that have been perpetuated for years, for decades. And if you happen to watch this video and you're not a Black man, but you relate, this is for you. Because let's face it, the men not feeling is a men thing. But I'm speaking on from the Black man perspective, simply because I have seen it in so many Black communities for generations. And it's got to stop. It's got to change. So if you're a lady and you're watching this, the next time your women's group decides to have a women's empowerment, have the men next door. Have resources for the men. Because how can you take care of your sister if she's going home to an unhealed man? We call that an abusive relationship, right? And if she's getting empowered, but he's not, she's going back home to mess while he's messing up a prized possession. And I'm not using possession as in he possesses her, right? And taking ownership, but like if that's supposed to be his queen, right? He's messing that up, messing up the familiar system because he doesn't know how to unpack. And you're teaching her how to unpack, but she don't know how to unpack her husband, and she shouldn't have to. But if you're providing her with the resources to unpack, make sure that she has the resource to help her husband unpack as well. That's all I'm saying. Okay. So thank you for tuning in tonight. I hope you've gotten something. Please like, share, and subscribe. And you're going to see a lot more videos. You're going to see a lot more videos from me. Have a good evening.